Hi, I'm Noah.
And I'm Marie, and welcome to the first episode of Notorious for Mumbling.
This is a new podcast by two friends, us, from high school, who share a fondness for the world and its story, yet in two different realities. Bonding over mutual adoration, storytelling has become a part of our friendship thumbprint. From here on out, we want to throw caution to any triggers of emotional distress. Listener discretion is advised. I'm Noah J. Sandel, and here's a little about me. I'm 21 and attend Ball State, but I am graduating in December. I was born in Fort Wayne, but before the age of 1, moved to North Carolina for 10 years, only to return to Indiana in an awful fashion. I am mixed, black and white, but I have 13 nationalities within my ancestral tree and counting. I'm the youngest of 2 older brothers and another sibling I do not speak of for personal reasons that we could hit in a future episode. Since it is bound to come up, I have been around pets and animals my whole life, from cats, dogs, birds, fish, hamsters, rabbits, and I quickly learned I was not and am not a pet person. But this does not mean that I hate animals. I love them and support any and all present and future causes for advancement and aid. But I have this psychological issue of domestication and order of importance for humans, why sometimes pets are seen over humans, why. But with that, I am a cynic and introvert by nature, and I try to be as realistic as possible. But one thing I can promise to those I am close with is my loyalty and reliability. I will always be there for you, always.
Thanks, Noah.
Thank you, Marie.
You're welcome. I am Marie. I am the other half of this podcast. I'm also 21 years old, and I also attend Ball State University. However, I will be graduating in May of 2019. I study creative writing with a minor in telecommunications and film. I have never moved, unlike Noah. I have lived in the same house my whole entire life. I am a Caucasian female, much to some people's disappointment, maybe. I don't know. I am the youngest of 3 sisters, actually, and I have a twin sister, and so there's 4 of us in total, and it's great. I love my sisters a lot. They're my best friends. I have 2 cats and a dog. I love pets. I want pets when I'm older. I am not a cynic, but I am an introvert. So I would consider myself probably a realist or an optimist, but I am very introverted by nature. I'm an INFJ, INFP, what up? I'm also a 4 on the Enneagram, if you know what that is, just a fun fact. I am a storyteller. I am a writer. I love fashion and dance and hot chocolate and lipstick and stripes, actually. Yeah, my passion is to take stories and turn them around to enlightening angles. I'm always available to listen, and I'm just someone who is always ready to talk. I strongly believe that everybody has a story worth hearing, and I'm hoping to one day share my own. I also have a blog / personal brand. It is Inky Squares. I don't know what that means, but I have been writing on it for a very long time now.
Writing beautifully.
Wow. Thank you. I don't really know what else there is to say. I hate driving.
Agreed.
I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. That's a really
Ditto.
good one.
We're both vegetarians.
Oh, yeah, we are. I
Yes.
always forget that.
Started around the same time.
Yeah. I like to bullet journal. I like to paint. I fall in love a lot, and I never get enough sleep.
Are those related?
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just out here living my life. Yeah. This is probably a really bad intro, but it's okay.
No, it was beautiful.
You'll fix it up later.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. So, throughout this podcast, you might notice that Marie and I call each other nicknames.
Oh, this is a good one.
Namely, Marv for Marie and Neff for me, Noah. And this is all dependent on senior year of high school when we met.
Yeah, I would just like to preface this because this is important. Noah and I have known each other for a pretty long time. We met our senior year of high school, which was
2014.
2014.
Yes.
Currently it is 2018. So it has been around 4 years. And I would just like to say that Noah at first didn't think we were going to be friends. He was like, I don't make friends with anybody. And I was like, watch me. And now we're making a podcast together. So sucks for you. Keep going.
Anyway, senior year of high school when we met, I stumbled upon this name game. This is based off a name creation generator where you match your initials to 3 words for a nickname. My own, NJS, matched to Nefarious Frozen Spirit, and Marie's, MJD, matched to Marvelous Frozen Dragon, which might also oddly match our own personalities. But since then, we have used the shortened versions in conversation, Neff and Marv, and as you can tell, each episode will be titled from our nicknames and the subject of that episode. Working from that, each episode will be called a chapter. This is simply because Notorious for Mumbling is about storytelling.
What?
I know. Now, you might be wondering, how did they come up with this amazing title for their podcast?
Yo, I don't know. Tell me.
Well, it wasn't without confusion and much mental debate. Now, we were deciding that we wanted to create a podcast for a long time, but we struggled mightily for a name. From song title favorites, one-sided titles, and the mundane options, Notorious for Mumbling literally fell into our laps. Well, from my mouth and into Marie's beautiful head. But anyways, we were chatting before class one day, and I mentioned how I was notorious for mumbling, that she was one of few people to understand my lines of an auto-conditioned hum. But she agreed and said that she felt the same while stating how it'd be a great name. Short story short. Woo.
There you go.
Shoo, shoo, shoo. Short story short, Notorious for Mumbling was born.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened.
It was cool.
It was really fun.
So, if you're curious what storytelling even is or what it's about, first let's start with the plain Oxford Dictionary definition.
I love the Oxford English Dictionary. The OED will save lives.
Do you want to take this one?
No, you didn't look up from the OED that I want. Not that there's multiple.
I just used the Oxford Online Dictionary.
That's not the same.
It's better. Yeah, it's available to everyone. Yeah.
I'm joking.
Anyways.
Storytelling is defined as the
Thank you,
activity
Marie.
of telling or writing stories by the Oxford English Dictionary, which is really, really interesting. I think that's a really, plain definition.
Super broad.
Yeah, it is very broad, but it also feels very obvious.
Right.
Like,
A middle schooler came up with it.
yeah.
No offense to Oxford Online Dictionary, but come on.
Is a 12-year-old writing the Oxford English Dictionary? Well, how would you define storytelling, Noah?
Well, personally, I define storytelling as the motion of our lives and how we live them. How we speak is due to something, how we walk, converse in new settings, act with extended family, our views on religion and politics, etc., are because of something. And each of those somethings tell a story, and one worth telling the right way. Our lives mimic a cliched story structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in the process of maneuvers between those trifecta parts, both mirror a story's arc and the ripples of impact that reach into others' unique stories. We're never enclosed in our own story's bounds, as we affect how others perceive particular aspects of life too. To connect, to share, and to understand those concepts are storytelling. That's what I think.
Wow.
I
Okay.
know. How about you, Marie? What are your ideas?
I would just like to remind everyone that I am a creative writing major and Noah is a TCOM or telecommunication major.
Video production.
What?
Video production.
Oh, okay.
Just a shout out.
What up? And he has a better answer to what storytelling is than I do. I think storytelling is not necessarily, yes, it is the act of telling and writing stories. But it's also just the way we are naturally born to interact with people. If you really think about it, when you are young, obviously there is some societal implications and your parents put you into a routine.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a natural ebb and flow to how you interact with people. And our lives are shaped around storytelling. When you are meeting new people and learning more about their lives, there's no really mathematical way you could tell it. This, I have 6 siblings. At 6 p.m. we always eat dinner. That, I guess, sort of works. But there's emotional and there's an emotional and natural response to hearing a story, whether it be something you read, something you see, something somebody tells you. And when you are speaking to people, there's an emotional response to want to connect. And I think storytelling is how that's done. And people who say they don't like to read really confuse me because we utilize storytelling in our everyday lives. I think storytelling is just almost as natural as breathing. It feels like something that has been ingrained in our bones and it runs through your blood because it's how people live. I think that's my definition. I think storytelling is how people live. I think it's how we interact every day with people and inanimate objects. I think it's how we understand relationships and understand the people around us. I think it's how we learn about the world, and I think it's how we make decisions and form opinions, because without a story, we aren't getting information. And numbers are great, but you can't just have numbers sitting out. There has to be something to connect the numbers to something. And I'm not just saying this because I am not good at math. I'm saying this because I was always good at word problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the truth of it. When you have words and when you have a story there, you kind of understand the cohesiveness of it all. And without storytelling and without it, things are just confusion. and they don't make sense. So I think you probably hit on it really well, that it's something used to connect and to share and to understand. Because I think storytelling is like breathing. I think it's how we go about our lives. I think it's what defines us. I think it's what fuels us. And I think it's what keeps us going, whether we know it or not.
I agree. That was an eloquent way to put it.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a big chunk of our experiences with storytelling and how it's affected us. So, personally, the way I've experienced storytelling is how probably you guys have. Education and family. These two avenues provide the most willing and able individuals with a chance to discover, learn, and press more information upon what is already known to eventually share that. Growing up, I was the why child and the funny one in the family. This natural curiosity paved way for my own acceptance of who and what I am as a student, figure in society, and human. The comedy aspect was how I coped with my emotions, and still do. It used to be more of a one-liner and highly situational in the moment humor, but now it's transformed into understanding the art, written thought, delivery, timing, while incorporating a sense of connotation. But my fear with storytelling was always stemmed from a number grade I received on a progress report in first grade. I got a 2 out of 4, and it scarred me emotionally and mentally. I was late to the coffee shop and cafe because I hated my writing and ability to form a decent story. But now I do love the craft and the art of it. And because I fell in love with it, storytelling, in general, its default is honesty, transparency, and a form of trust that lingers between the creator and the viewer or reader. And one way I've evolved is through poetry, an automatic love affair. Poe was the start for me, but then it was greats like W.B. Du Bois and Paul Laurence Dunbar. By full admission, I wasn't even on the correct platform for poetry, only really getting fascinated my senior year of high school. I wrote poems for me, my thoughts. Then it traveled to people like Marv and my family. And during the same time, a significant other in my life received them in various forms, including scavenger hunts. Once in college, I was able to move it into classes, and now, a podcast.
We gonna get some poetry from you on this podcast, Noah?
We'll find out. This is just
baby.
a podcast, Marie.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how people grew up with storytelling, because I don't think they understand how pivotal it is. Like when your parents read to you when you're little, it's great. My parents read Harry Potter to me.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, they read him to Grace first. And Grace always talks about how my mom used to pronounce Hermione, Hermy-one.
Oof.
Well, they didn't know until the movies came
right.
out, you know? Like, it's...
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. You should never make fun of somebody for saying a word incorrectly. Because
That's
it
true.
means they learned that word by reading. Which is true.
Correct.
So just a fun fact. I have a very different experience with storytelling.
Tell us about it.
I will. So, small plug. I wrote about this on my blog, actually. You can find it, inkysquares.com. And it's a blog post called This Is a Story. So I'm kind of referencing that right now just because it's easier. I was diagnosed in 6th grade with ADHD, which is something that I still have. I was diagnosed very late. But ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is something that is very noticeable in me when I'm not on my medication. So growing up, I had a lot of energy. I was very wild. Like, school was not good for me. I was really bad at all of my classes because I couldn't sit still. And something that would calm me down, or with ADD/ADHD, there's an act called hyperfocusing, where when something is so engaging, it's like all you can focus on and all that you can really concentrate on, to the point where like you can't get anything else done. And before I was medicated, that's like the only time my mom would get me to like chill out. And so for me, that would happen when I was reading a book. I was really good at it. I could read really, really fast. I read like 2 or 3 grades above my grade. And so when my mom started teaching me to read, I just like caught on right away. And so we would go to the library all the time. And I remember the first book I ever fell in love with was Junie Jones, because, God, me too.
Classic series.
Also relatable. She is me. We were the same. And I just remember loving it. I remember loving the idea of like hearing this story and engaging with it and getting to experience it, and how every new book was like a new experience with her, and she like always ended well, and she always did like these crazy things, and I was like, man, I want that. I love it. I want to be in these stories, and I want to experience her. And I just didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like I was annoying or bothering anybody when I was reading. I was like cool, collected. I wasn't bothering my sisters. I wasn't bothering my mom. I wasn't bothering my teachers. I felt normal. because I could be chill. And so as I got older, my love of books grew with me, and I started reading a lot more. And from that, I started writing. It was really great. Reading and writing became my number one priority. I felt like I was a storyteller.
You are a storyteller.
Well, we're getting there. And so there was like a small bump in the road in maybe 7th grade, which sounds terrible because after I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was able to like really kind of figure out how to be a good student. And that's when I first realized like, oh, I could be a storyteller as a job. Like I never thought that was possible because I was never focused enough to write like a full story. I would be writing, but it would be like all over the place. And I wasn't really good at my classes. I was never in advanced English classes, which you don't have to be in advanced English classes to be a writer, I would just like to say.
No,
but
you do not.
I really wanted to be in those classes because I could read at that level, but I couldn't get the work done. So when I finally got everything figured out with my ADHD and I was put into English classes where I was challenged and I could write really well because I could sit down for 3 hours and write a paper, I realized like, oh, this is what I could do for my life. And in 7th grade, I had like a run-in with a friend and it didn't go very well. And she kind of made me feel really shitty for my writing and like would make fun of it and like would like show my journals around to people. And it just like made me feel like my writing was shitty. And so I didn't write until junior year of high school, which is a very, very, very long time. But in that time I was still reading. I had made like a small YouTube channel with friends. I discovered journalism in my high school. And I was just like figuring out my passion. But junior year of high school, I had gotten involved in a film club where we made movies and I was on the screenwriting team for that. And then my senior year, I was the writer and producer of a movie that got made and it was really exciting. And I realized like I could do this and it's okay if I feel like I suck because this is kind of proof that I don't. So I went into college and I said, I'm going to fucking start a blog. Yeah, I realized that I could do this and I'm going to start a blog because if I am writing, then it deserves to be seen. And it was really scary and I didn't write fiction for a really, really, really long time until probably sophomore year of college when I had to write one for my creative writing classes. As a very scared writer, I decided to be a creative writing major, which was, in hindsight, the best decision I ever made. But when I was making it, I was like, I'm going to fail all of my classes because I hate dealing with my writing. I have grown a lot in both like what I read and what I write. I want to go into publishing now, and I thought for the longest time I was going to write fiction. I was like, I'm going to be a fiction writer. I love reading fiction books. Like, it's my favorite thing. I could give you lists of fiction books. I have a beautiful bookshelf in my house, like, that my dad built me. Shout out to my dad. He's the bomb. I get books every year for Christmas. Like, I love reading fiction books. And then I came to college, and I realized, like, Marie, you have been writing creative nonfiction for years, and you're good at it. And you should do something with that. So my plan is to go into publishing and then maybe get essays published, write a memoir. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But point being, storytelling is like a very pivotal and significant aspect of my life because it's the only way I've ever known how to interact with people, whether it be positively or negatively, whether I felt normal by reading or alienated by it. It has been my only relationship with people all the time. And I love it. I would not want to be doing anything else.
I think it's a really good way to put it, that it's the only way you've known how to interact with people.
It really is.
Because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah, whether they know it or not.
It's true.
With that being said, Noah,
Yes.
What are your faves? Like, we talk about storytelling, we talk about why we love it and what it means to us. But, like, what are your favorite stories?
Okay, well, personally...
Or your favorite ways to tell stories
exactly.
also.
I'm going to start with this and say that storytelling is not only the written word.
Yeah.
It's visuals as well. And for me, my top two favorite ways to storytell are photography and videography. Because to me, visual storytelling encapsulates multi-sensory use and comprehension. Yes. But then I have music, because it's a large part of who I am, as it should be for most everybody, I assume. But in some form or fashion, I was in choir for more than a decade. And I started a song of the day on my Instagram, and we'll be having one per chapter on this lovely podcast, Notorious for Mumbling.
What is today's?
Today's, we'll hit at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Yes. But lastly, of course, written. My favorite is poetry. I'm not the most protective of it, but it's definitely the most outwardly personal. It is my thoughts on paper, without much filter besides my natural riddle or abstraction of tone of voice. And that really hits in certain ways.
Yeah, I feel that. I can admire that. I'm a really bad poet, so I envy you.
You're not bad.
Okay. In the major of creative writing, there are 4 elements, which is like creative nonfiction, fiction writing, poetry, and screenwriting. And of the 4, I'm probably the worst at poetry, but that's fine.
Have you taken poetry class?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
You did well. I read some of your poems
I'm a good student. That doesn't mean I'm a good poet.
Well, you wouldn't have received decent grades if you weren't okay at
That's debatable.
Well, tell me about your favorite ways to storytell, Marie.
Right. So my favorite way of storytelling is probably by writing specifically. Oh, I am a creative writing major. I do really like making videos and like making films or videography. I do really enjoy that. It's not my strong suit, but I do like it when I'm making it. Inky Square's blog post that I was talking about, the This Is a Story one, there's a video that goes along with it. So if you, like, I love it. I would do more videography if I have more time. And I think it's always something that I will hold close to my heart. It's what I did through high school that like got me back into the act of writing, and I just admire it. I like watching it. I like experiencing it. Yeah, but writing is probably my strongest. Creative nonfiction is where I have like been writing for a very long time and I didn't even realize it. I want to be a better fiction writer. It will always be something that I want to do because I love fiction books like nobody's business. Like I can read a book in an afternoon. Like I love fiction writing. But yeah, I think there's something really beautiful about the written word. I also am really into art. So I grew up with a mom who is an artist. She's a master's in drawing and painting and she's great. And so my whole life I grew up just like not learning how to draw, but like being engaged with the visual arts and always getting her hands dirty. And my mom has a studio in our basement and I just love painting and drawing and gluing and cutting, and I really like big projects. I really love 3D art. In another life, I probably would have made ceramics for my entire life. But yeah, visual art is something that I've gotten really comfortable with recently, which is something that I didn't think I'd ever say. So yeah, I think I'm learning how both to engage with pictures more intently while also making my own. I'm not a very good photographer, so I really admire you for that. But I do enjoy music a lot. I don't have a song of the day. Unfortunately, I don't do that. But yeah, how do you not love music? I think it easily could be something that fuels our society. I think it's something that everybody can find common ground on.
Correct. I agree.
So now you have to tell us your favorites, which feels like everybody's like, oh, I don't have a favorite song or I don't have a favorite musician or I don't have a favorite TV show. I think that's bullshit. I really do. I think everybody has a favorite of something. And you should know it. I'm kidding. You don't have to know it. It can change too also. But everybody has a favorite. There's something where it's like, man, if I am on my deathbed and I had just enough time to watch this TV show, or I had just enough time to watch this movie, or just enough time to watch or listen to this band/song, you would have one. I promise.
You should.
So what are yours?
Well, when it comes to music, Beatles are always going to be number one. I mean, that's no surprise if you know me. And you'll get to know me throughout this process. And definitely am a Beatlemaniac. Street and nature photography, though, even though they're direct opposites, to me they're equally thrilling and easing to the mind. Like one, you're in the streets and you're trying to understand people and also shoot from the hip. But then in nature photography, it's pretty much only you, and you're getting inside your own mind to understand what's in front of you. And I think that's really enthralling. But for film and movies, I really love the... I really love the Bow Wow movie, Roll Bounce. Like, to me, it's almost like every genre in one movie, and it still makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it, and I get that. But also, I call it a half foreign film, but it's Canadian. It's in French and English. It's titled Mommy. It's really, really good. Also like the musical Across the Universe. Again,
I
Beatles
love
based.
Across the Universe.
So good.
Oh my gosh, their cover, or not their cover, but I guess it's kind of a cover of I've Just Seen a Face. It was one of my most played songs last year on Spotify. I love it.
Their graphics in general in that movie are just spectacular.
Not enough people know about it. If you haven't seen Across the Universe, please go watch it. Go watch it. You will not regret it.
And then last movie is Casablanca, which is a classic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. TV, definitely How I Met Your Mother fan. Like, okay, pretty largely.
I will like to say that I watched How I Met Your Mother because of Noah. Like senior year of high school, I think I started it.
Yeah, I think so.
And I watched it, and then I finished it freshman year of college just because I knew it was Noah's favorite. And I would just like to tell everyone that I called the ending, like, by season 3. I was like, yo, I know what's going to happen. And he was not happy.
You know why she called the ending?
Why?
Because she's a great storyteller. You're a great storyteller.
Wow, way to turn it around.
That's why.
It's just very obvious. But we can probably talk about that in a later episode.
That's true. Probably can. Yes, we will.
I think people are dumb who are like, oh, I didn't see it coming. Like, really, let's think about it.
Well, it's a television show. You have many seasons to try and figure it out.
But
so like,
I'm just talking about like from the beginning. Like
from the very beginning.
Yeah, I feel like you can tell what's going to happen.
The fact that it's a narrator, you automatically have like 3 different avenues.
And
you decide
like
which one.
What the story is focusing on.
Correct.
Anyway, we're getting off topic. We digress.
Then also like Seinfeld, Freaks and Geeks, Penny Dreadful, Bates Motel, Twin Peaks, and Orphan Black. Thank you, Marv.
You're welcome.
Just as I turned her and How I Met Your Mother, she turned me in Orphan Black.
It took years to get Noah to watch Orphan Black, and then he finished it in like...
It did, but I technically finished the whole series before she did.
I was emotionally stressed because of that. I was committed to this series in a way that you will never be able to experience.
For the whole summer, I was committed. And I caught up and had to watch...
I watched these episodes live.
And I watched season 5 live.
I tried. Anyway,
going on. Written, Poe. I really like the short story Yellow Wallpaper. Anything F. Scott Fitzgerald, anything Michael Faudet, Lang Leaves, those are poets. But also, the autobiographies of Michael J. Fox are just life-changing in a way. It really makes you think of who you are and what you're doing to alter the world in a beneficial way of some sort. So those are mine. What's your list, Marie?
Okay. First, pause. You missed a very key section of storytelling that you had mentioned before, which was music.
I said Beatles.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you were talking about that earlier.
I think I started it.
Okay, that's fine. Either way, you got it in there. So I will go in the same order.
Okay.
With music, I go to a lot of concerts. That's a really fun fact about me. I have a really great twin sister. I should just open this by saying my twin sister's name is Laura. So if you hear me talking about a Laura, that's my twin sister, and she is my best friend. I have lived in a room with her. Well, not just like one room. Like we shared a room growing up for 21 years. Well, now we have separate rooms because we're living in a house, but whatever.
But Laura is lovely, and you should expect her on a future episode.
Yeah, because she's really great, and it'll be really fun because we're very different people, but we're also very alike.
Yes.
That sounds like an oxymoron or a paradox, but it's true.
It sounds like how twins probably are.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised when people who are twins aren't best friends.
It
really kind of makes me really sad.
Or any sibling that's close in age. I'm a little surprised by.
I am flabbergasted when they're like, oh, I hate my siblings. Like,
oh, well.
What happened? Anyway, Laura and I go to a lot of concerts together, and so I listen to a lot of music, which most people I know do. But what I will say is that sometimes I'll see people in concert twice if I like really love them, but hardcore to my deathbed, I will always buy tickets for Andrew McMahon. Andrew McMahon is a great artist. He started a band, a pop punk band early on called Something Corporate, and then he had to end Something Corporate while he was starting a side project called Jack's Mannequin. And while he was making the first album of Jack's Mannequin, he got cancer. And so that album is very significant because not only is it a story of him beating his cancer, but it's also a creation of like everything he wanted to make but he couldn't while he was in Something Corporate. So Jack's Mannequin was great. It went on for a few years, made great albums, and then he ended that band and he just started another band called Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. They have 2 albums out. I love him. I was introduced to Andrew McMahon by my oldest sister, so I grew up listening to him. Everything in Transit, Jack's Mannequin's first album, is an album that has literally probably kept me alive through junior high school and college. We will be talking about the significance of music in other episodes, but Andrew McMahon in any facet is hands down my favorite artist. Currently at the moment in 2018 of August. August of 2018. I really like Saint Motel. They're a really funky band. I love Coin. I really like Coin. I just saw them with Walk the Moon. Noah was at that concert. We didn't see it together, though. No. What else is hopping on my Spotify currently?
I mean, you want to talk about Britney? Or
oh,
Taylor?
My God. Britney Spears? I love Britney Spears. Here's the thing. I don't believe in guilty pleasures, and I will gladly tell you that I love Britney Spears. People who are like, oh, I listen to, like, Britney Spears is great, but, like, I would never say she's my favorite or, like, she's my guilty pleasure music. Garbage. I don't care. I love her. Britney Spears is queen. Lucky is my karaoke song forever and ever. Yeah, I really do. I enjoy Walk the Moon. I enjoy Hoser. I enjoy Marine and the Diamonds, 1975. Pretty much anything you throw at me, I'll like. But if I had to pick like top bands, it'd be like Anne McMahon, Coin, Saint Motel, and Novo Amor. They are really chill, but so beautiful. For like visual art, I do enjoy photography a lot, but I do a lot of visual, like painting and stuff. I don't know if I have favorite like painters. I really like Pablo Picasso, which is, I feel like, a cop-out. It's like every art ho's favorite painter. My mom loves Vincent van Gogh. So I grew up with a lot of Vincent van Gogh around me. She has a big book about him, so we would like flip through it. So I think by default, I really like Vincent van Gogh, you know, Monet, just like all the big ones, because I'm not an art ho and I don't know a lot. But for mediums, I really like watercolor. I really enjoy watercolor. I really enjoy acrylic paint. I wrote a short story called Acrylics once that will never see the light of day. R.I.P. Never forget. And I really like ceramics and jewelry making. I really forgot about that, but I took a jewelry making class in high school and it was bomb. If you ever have a chance to like take an art class that you were like, oh, I think I would be okay at that, but I don't know, do it. Like, just do it. Why not? And I love jewelry making. I just love 3D art. I love working on big things. I could paint big paintings, big pictures. Really any type of art I'm gonna do, even if I'm bad at it, because who cares?
Might as well.
For films and movies, I will give you like top 3 or top 4 or top 5.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, so I would go Whiplash. I really like Whiplash.
It's good.
Yeah,
Miles
that movie
Teller.
stresses me out. The Social Network. That movie is all talking and you're just like invested. I love the script on that. Also, the score is great, but The Social Network is bomb. It's the movie about Facebook that isn't about Facebook. So if you haven't seen it, please go see it. I would do Dead Poet Society. That is the movie that made me want to initially write movies, which is RIP, not something I want to do anymore. But it just like got me kickstarted into the idea of like, you can tell a story that means something to someone and it's going to be worth it. I love 10 Things I Hate About You. If I was sad and I only had the option to watch, if I was sad and I had like a big thing of movies to watch, I would pick 10 Things I Hate About You. I love that movie. And then Ratatouille. I love Ratatouille.
They came out of left field with that one.
I don't watch a lot of Disney movies. I'm not like somebody that like wants to watch Disney movies a lot. But I think Ratatouille is a great movie. I think it's a genius. I think what a great idea. But like I said, I don't really believe in guilty pleasures. So for me to comfortably say I love Ratatouille is okay. I also really enjoy cheesy, dumb movies. Like I can have a really sophisticated opinion about things. Oh, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Ooh. 2001: A Space Odyssey. See, I love, like, that movie is something that I feel like everybody needs to watch if they like movies. And it's a commitment. It's like 3 hours long. So I can go from watching 2001: A Space Odyssey to also being like, oh my God, a new Disney Channel movie. I want to watch it.
And I think we forgot that you and I both have a shared adoration for one classic Disney animation.
Which one?
Aristocat.
Oh my God, yes! Noah and I love Aristocats. Everybody wants to be a cat because we don't have the copyright for that, so it's fine. But we love Aristocats. That's true. I grew up watching Aristocats. It's my favorite, like, OG film. For television, I watch a lot of TV. Well, not really much, not too much anymore. Here's another fun fact about Noah. I think you will find that we are different people, but also we are very much alike in a lot of ways. We just like live our lives differently, which makes us different. But we have a shared adoration for the Bachelor franchise.
Oh man, Bachelor Nation, hands up.
Hell yeah. So I am committed to that. I don't like cooking shows. I have to leave the room in cooking shows. They physically stress me out. I was watching MasterChef once, and they were like all this editing, and this guy was like, I'm not going to finish my cannolis. And I was like, I got to go. I'm literally sweating.
Whenever I watch cooking shows, I have to leave to go to the kitchen to eat. Yeah.
That's funny. If I had to pick like my favorite shows, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I watched that recently, and it was really, really, really good. It's still on there, so I don't know why I'm acting
It's
like...
coming back, though. Glad it came back.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is great. I love Orphan Black. Got Noah hooked on that. It is such an interesting show. There's a lot to be said about the dynamics of like identity in that.
And also just, Tatiana Maslany. She's like...
Yeah, she's incredible.
Oh my god.
Totally deserved the Emmy. Totally went too long with that one, but I love The X-Files. I love The X-Files. I watched The X-Files with my dad, which is probably half the reason I love it so much. is because I rewatched it with my dad before the revival came back, and it was just so fun because he like watched it with my mom when they were together. They're still together. Yeah, when they were dating, I mean. And so I think it was fun to him to now like experience that with his daughter. It was great. Such a good show. The truth is out there. And if you don't believe in aliens, let's talk. We'll get into that in a later episode. But my hardcore 100% ride or die TV show is One Tree Hill. I love One Tree Hill. I love it. I just restarted it for like the 4th time. It is the perfect amount of like teen TV drama / teen TV like impossible. You know, like Gossip Girl is too dramatic for me.
I like Gossip Girl.
I could not get behind it. It was just so like,
I mean, you got
it's
like
too far for me, which
Kristen
sounds dumb.
Bell,
what?
Just narrating.
Okay, yeah, but she's I also watched Veronica Mars. That's a great show. It's not probably like up there, but it's a show that I do love. But One Tree Hill is like the perfect amount of like unbelievable teen lives. Like Haley gets a record deal and then also gets married as like a junior, and like
Spoiler
like Lucas, please, and like all this stuff happens. Like Brooke starts a clothing company, and she like just it's like unfathomable.
You want to tell us who everyone ends up with too?
Yeah, it's an unfathomable like lifestyle that these kids live, and so it's like just far enough that it's entertaining, but it's also very grounded, and I enjoy that. Books. Let's move on to books, which is a big category for me. I will give you 4 and keep it. I will give you 5 and keep it really simple. Maker of Saints by Thulani Davis is a book that I read last year, and I was convinced that I wasn't going to find a favorite book for a very long time because it kind of takes a lot for me to be like, yes, this is my hardcore favorite book. But I loved that book. I read it in a literary noir class, and it's about an artist. She's a black artist, and she lives in New York. It was after the Black Arts Movement happened, and she watches her best friend fall from a building and kill herself. But she's convinced that someone has pushed her, and so she has to start investigating it. And it's this whole idea of like being a black artist in New York, while also she like grew up in America, and while her like best friend has like come over from Africa and like lived in New York, and so there's like a dual of identity of like, does she really feel validated in being an African American because she has lived in white America her whole life, and also like what does that do to her art, and like is she valid in this art movement that is mostly run by white men? It's just incredible. And it's psychoanalyzing, and I would highly recommend it. It is an incredible book, and it was the last book we read that semester, and I was like, my face was like melting off while I was reading it. I loved it.
For our listeners, what was the title again?
Maker of Saints by Thulani Davis.
Awesome.
I love Walt Whitman. I love Leaves of Grass. I will leave it at that because he's really one of the major poets I read, and Leaves of Grass is a very long collection of poems, but it's worth the read. The most famous poem from that is probably Song of Myself. Yeah, it is really good. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. I know I'm not selling this to you guys really well, but I promise you it's really good. Leaves of Grass comes out of another book that is my favorite, called Paper Towns by John Green, and you may all audibly groan. Please, I understand. I think Paper Towns is significant to me because I read it at a very pivotal point in my life, which was like right before I went into high school. And I think it's his best work. I think it's John Green's best work. I think the book itself covers a lot of the issues that are in his other books. This idea of like who we are to other people and how we see ourselves, and like image and identity and the formation of that. I don't know. It's an incredible book. If we ever talk about like books and like specific stories, like I could talk for hours about why Paper Towns is so interesting and so layered. The movie is garbage, except for the very end when there's this really great key throw. That's it.
Fantastic.
My favorite classic book is Alice in Wonderland. Never get better than that. And then my all-time favorite book, it's a series, but it's fine, is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. And it's about 5 kids looking for a dead Welsh king, prophecies and ley lines, and kissing your true love, and having your true love die, and incredible character development, and a really, really great mystery. And I think if you don't read it, you are missing out on something. So those are mine.
I mean, it really sounds like something that we all go through.
If you're not searching for a dead Welsh king, what are you doing on the weekends?
But you know, a lot of people might ask, well, what can I gain from storytelling? like from the real world.
Okay.
And there are a lot of professional skills that we're going to hit in a future episode with a professional from the field.
That's true.
Yes. That you can gain. And for me, it's just the 3 C's that you can gain from storytelling: communication, critique, and core values. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah. What professional skills are gained in your opinion?
I think professional skills, clarity. You really understand clarity better by storytelling. Cohesiveness is a good one. I'm trying to keep with these C's.
Yeah, I can tell. We're up to 5 now.
Clarity, cohesiveness. You already said communication.
Double down.
Yeah, communication obviously is good. I think that helps with it. But also relatability and like empathy, which is something I think people lack in the world.
It's true.
It sounds so silly, but I think what makes me a very empathetic and emotional person is the fact that I read a lot growing up. And I had to read stories about people that weren't like me. And I had to find a way to relate to them. And I firmly believe that, like, I don't have to like a character for me to appreciate them. And that goes with people. I don't have to like you to appreciate you and understand you. I can talk to you and understand what's happening in your life and still think, like, I don't think we'd be good friends, which sounds really shitty, but it's true. So I think empathy and understanding is a good one. Oh, I just shook the table, guys. Sorry. I think also perspective. I think it gives you perspective. I think storytelling gives you perspective. I talk myself up like I'm incredible, but in like arguments or discussions, I find it really easy to kind of be like, okay, so this is how this person is feeling because of this, this, and this, and this is how this other person is feeling because of this, this, and this, and it's really easy to kind of look at and think about the two aspects of this discussion, or even in an argument with a significant other, it's really easy to think about, well, why is this person feeling this way? Because of storytelling. I think that's why, because you can understand how a person is feeling and where they're coming from and what is their truth. So I think also that's a really good real world application, is knowing the difference between lowercase t truth and capital T truth, which is something that we will also talk about later if you don't know what that is. So look at all these hooks that we're leaving you to keep listening. Which is a good thing we should talk about. Why should people be listening to our podcast, Noah? Like, who gives a shit about 2 high school friends talking about storytelling?
No one. No, I'm kidding.
My mom. That's pretty much it.
So why listen? I mean, we're 2 people who desire to connect with others on a deeper level than just an acquainted nod.
Yeah, actually, I love feelings, so please tell me everything.
But we're also 2 people who love similar things, but those things affect us differently. And we react in unique ways with unique insights.
Yep.
And I think that's a good way to also describe our friendship, which we'll discuss in another episode. But we're also both students of the cycle of the mind and continue to learn and grow from each moment. And we strive for what is considered the best method while maintaining our personal belief and value system. Then additionally, the most obvious one, we have experience, not only as partners, but also in the field of greater communication, such as writing, literature, and film, TV, and news. Like, we do have experience in this.
Yeah, we did a lot of it. We do a lot of it. I think we've done a lot of different levels of that, and some people might be like, you didn't do enough of it. Like, high school journalism is not enough to argue that. But I think it taught us a lot, and I think it taught us a lot how to, like, share news and, like, perceive stories and, like, spin a story. Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Additionally, I think if you can imprint a class or course or society in high school in some manner of what's expected in the future, I think the experience in general calls for itself. But lastly, I do think that we all deserve an ear and guidance. Yeah. And we would like to be both for you.
Yeah, but, like, also make good choices. You don't have to listen to it. Like, you should listen to this podcast, but don't always listen to our advice, because I don't know if we're the people to trust on all advice.
I mean, we can give you advice and some guidance, but we want you to take that
and do with it what you will.
And transform it into something that makes sense for you.
Yeah. We did not tell them what this chapter title was.
Oh, you're right. So this chapter title is creatively titled From Marie is Neff and Marv Get Off the Hook. And why is that so punny, Marie?
Because the opening sentence of every story is called a hook. You learn that in your basic English class when you're writing a paper. You start with a hook, and it gets people engaged. So we're getting off the hook. So what can people expect to hear in this podcast? Like, what kind of episodes are we going to have? Like, what's the
So we're going to cover the basis of storytelling.
Oh,
because it is broad.
Yeah.
And it affects us all individually in certain ways that we can't explain sometimes. And because of that, we're going to talk about some hard-hitting topics and controversial topics for some people. But we're going to do it in a manner that's not going to tick either of us off talking to one another. In my opinion. We'll see.
I don't think it'll ever make us mad. I don't know. It takes a lot for us to get mad at each other.
Nowadays, for sure.
Yeah, nowadays. That's true. So next week we're talking about
religion.
Ooh.
Yes, I know. And that one will be titled Neff and Marv Get Unholy. And that'll be chapter 2. The week after that would be Paranormal Conspiracies in Childhood. And that is when we're going to have Laura.
My sister.
Yes. It's exciting.
She'll be here. You guys will hear her voice.
And the week after will be music, movies, and TV. And then it will be technological advancements and fears, politics and social issues, literature, print media, and careers in education. And we're going to end this podcast series with the most notorious topic of all.
Especially in regards to storytelling.
Yes. And we're also going to touch on our friendship with this episode is...
relationships and love.
Yes, relationships and
which
love.
I am very excited about. Not because I think we will have a lot to say just specifically about our experiences with relationships and love, individually and together, but also because I love. And I love romance stories, which feels really dumb for a lot of people to say, but I do, and I really don't care if people think that I'm stupid for loving love and loving romance stories, but like there's nothing like a good rom-com, you know? And like there's just something, I think society as a whole, like there's something fulfilling about seeing a romance story come into fruition. I mean, like look at the royal wedding and all the views. Like people love to eat that up. So I'm very excited for that episode. I'm excited for all of them. It's not like I'm favoring one over the other, but I think it'll be a good ending.
It will be.
Yeah.
It will be. It also might be our longest episode.
Yeah.
Future apologies.
Yeah. There's probably a good chance that it'll be our longest episode.
But also future like you're welcome.
Yeah, because I think by then you guys will like it.
And hopefully us.
There's a lot to be said. Okay. Yeah. So we will see you guys next time with Neff and Marv Get Unholy.
Yes.
Do we want to give people a general idea of like why we feel like this topic will be interesting?
Maybe a little flavor.
Okay. So we both decide, well, I don't know whose idea it was to talk about religion, but the general understanding of it is that like religion across the board, obviously there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about the different types of religion, you kind of start to find that they have a lot of things in common. A lot of creation stories feel very similar. There's lots of like, what is that word?
Deities.
No. Also, isn't it deities?
Deities.
Parables. There's lots of parables that are very similar. Like a lot of the same things happen in specific types of parables across the board. Like, I couldn't even give you an example.
Stealing.
Yeah, but there'd be like a specific parable about stealing. So like, let's just say there's a parable about like a man and his son steals from him. Mm-hmm. And like across 3 religions, you'll have the same story, but it's kind of told in different ways. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is very interesting. I think that element of religion and that idea of storytelling will be very intriguing to talk about. How these are like ways of life, but they all seem very similar and none of them can get along. I think talking about how religion shapes people will be very interesting because religion is a big part of people's story. And I think talking about how religion has shaped us individually will be very interesting because that's something that we both didn't touch on in our introduction.
Correct.
Because I was raised Christian and am still a practicing Christian. Mm-hmm. And you were raised...
I was originally, I'll say, raised loosely Christian.
Right.
Stopped going to church when I was like 5. And then from then on, it was just kind of like our parents let us decide what we wanted to do.
Right.
And I decided to be atheist.
Right. And I have been raised in a very, like, I don't want to say, like, liberal type of Christianity. But I think when you compare how I practice my faith to other people, it just feels different. And so that's why I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. And because, like I said, religion shapes people's stories and how they tell stories and also how they believe stories. And I think that's why it'll be an interesting topic to talk about. Yeah, how it's interpreted and how we shape our stories based on religion. And so if you want to hear us talk about that, come back and listen, please.
Yes, chapter 2. But we want to end this with special thanks to Brad Daly for guidance.
Yes, Brad, my man.
And our families for loving us in our worst.
Which is pretty much all the time.
It's pretty awful.
So Noah, please leave us with a song of the day.
Well, I'm going to leave with song of the day that was already mentioned. Because it's something important to both of us. I've Just Seen a Face by the Beatles.
Is it really? Did you decide on that when I said it?
Mm-mm.
Or you had picked it before?
I picked it before.
Are you kidding?
I'm not.
Did you know that I like that song?
I did.
I feel like you... Of course you did.
Of course I did.
Yeah. Fun fact, I found out about that song by a book, Anna and the French Kiss. The author has a playlist based off that book, and I've Just Seen a Face, the Across the Universe cover is on that. So yeah, that's a really good song of the day.
It is.
Yeah, thanks.
So until next time. Bye.
Bye.